This you can have. Okay, so when we talk about story point is just a way to measure the effort, how much it takes for a job to be done. Okay, and when we talk about effort, it could be the complexity of the story. It could be the time that story will take to be completed. It could even be the unknown on that story. So why do we use story point instead of using days or hours? Because it's very relative. Behind every story, there are some unknown. There are something that you might not know, some uncertainty. And the story point vary based on the theme. So because we are looking for a relative size, they have a way to calculate that using something, a measure, a series that they call Fibonacci the modified Fibonacci series. So the Fibonacci is actually, the goal is that they are trying to measure in the relative way. For instance, you can say something like walking is harder. Let's say walking is less difficult than running, right? Everybody can know that. So you cannot compare them in the exact way, but you know that walking it takes less energy when walking than running, right? So if you are measuring this, you could say that walking could be 1 story point and running could be maybe 2 story point. What about going by car? Or let's say going by bicycle. Maybe going by bicycle is faster too. It's faster than it's faster than running, and running is faster than going, walking. So maybe you can decide that if walking is to take twice the effort to be completed, if walking take twice the effort to be completed, then if running take twice the effort of the walking to be completed, then running equal 2 story point. So running can take up to twice the effort it takes to complete the walking. What about going with bicycle? Maybe going with bicycle can also take maybe the combined effort of running and walking, which is if you take 2 plus 1 equal 3. So maybe going with bicycle will be 3. So the Fibonacci have some series. It goes like that: 1, 2, 3. There is no 4. 5. There is no 6. There is no 7. The next one is 8. Then there's no 9. There's no 10. There is no 11. The next one is 13. Then there's nothing between 13 to 20. The next one is 20. So for instance, if and this is very important because your Fibonacci will help you determine if you know what you are saying. For instance, during the interview class, in the interview, they can ask you, how do you measure your story? How do you leverage the Fibonacci series? So let me show you what I mean. Okay. That is where, the interview today have changed the way of the interview became very, very complex because they are not asking you question as if you were in the book. They are asking you question so that they can see your limitation. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen here. So this is the Fibonacci sequence. So if it's 1 story point and 1 plus 1 equal 2, so the next story point is going to be 2. And then you have to, so is you add the previous story, you add the previous story point with the first story point. For instance, look at this. 1 plus 2 equals 3. Now, what do we do here? We take the 2 now as a previous story point plus the next number. So we take this plus this now. So 2 plus 3, which is this, equal 5. Then we take 5. So now we are taking 3 for 5 equals 6. Then here we are taking 5.4 plus 8 equals 13. Then we are taking 8 plus 13 equals 21. So this is how you calculate this, the Fibonacci series. So the number that you got, so the number that you got plus the sum of the previous number size. So you know that this is 24 ounces, this is 16 ounces, this is...
Mama Georgette, seems like we are not seeing your screen.
What are you seeing?
Just the course.
Can you see now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so this is the sizing, right? So this you can have a real, by seeing it, this they really measure it. They know that this is 8 ounces, this is 16 ounces, this is 24 ounces. But if you just see, that's what we call absolute value. But because we don't do absolute value in the story because of the complexity, because of the time that it could take, and because of the unknown, we want to do the relative value. So there are 2 ways of doing the sizing. We use the t-shirt size for feature and above. So whatever is feature, that means big body of work, feature AP, they use t-shirt sizing to size that. When it comes to story, they use story point. So this is t-shirt sizing. You can easily know that this is the smallest. So this is small, this is medium, this is large. So just like shirt that you buy, you have small, medium, large. So that's how they measure. And this could be related to the number of spring. Maybe large could be like, let's say, small could be like 1 spring. That means 10 days. And medium could be like 2 spring or 3 spring. Large could be like 5 spring, depending on how they want to measure it. There's no specific measurement. It's really related to the team, the way they want to agree on. So they first agree on the smallest element. And from there, they now compare the next element on that, from that smaller element. Now, when it comes to Fibonacci, which is somewhere in the... Good. So this is the Fibonacci. So agile estimation refers to a way of quantifying the effort needed to complete a development task. Many agile teams use story point as the unit to score their task. The higher the number of points, the more effort the team believes the task will take. So the Fibonacci sequence is one popular scoring scale for estimating agile story point. In this sequence, each number is the sum of the previous 2 in the series. Each number is the sum of the previous 2 in the series. The Fibonacci sequence goes as follows: 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, just like I showed you the calculation. Now, when you see that in the real world, like you can see that skateboard, it takes less effort than tricycle. So they can agree that skateboard could be 0. And if skateboard is 0, tricycle could be 1. And then in terms of complexity to ride the bike, maybe it will take you 0 plus 1 it's going to take you the effort of the previous. That means these 2 previous give you the effort of the third element, which is the tricycle, the bicycle. Scooter go to 3. So this is how the story goes. So the bigger the story, or the more complex the story, the higher the story point.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, Mama Georgette.
This is the heart of product, because you cannot forecast your work if you don't understand the story point. You cannot help your team break down the story point if yourself you don't understand. I know it boiled down to having some kind of a view of how long it takes, because at the end of the day, they can agree that maybe one story point could be equal to 1 day. It just give them some gauge to know that, okay, if it takes too much, it's going to take about 1 day to complete one story point. And if in the organization, 1 day of work equal is it could be 6 hours. This is the basic understanding, because you don't count all the 8 hours because of the meetings and answering email, answering chat, and all that. So developer, they hardly spend 8 hours developing. They can spend 6 hours developing. So you always have to give them that buffer, right? And what I'm explaining to you is this is how you tell the story. This is how you explain yourself during the interview. You don't explain like in the book. You have to tell them, hey, I always make sure that when I measure my story with my developer, I want to understand that they understand the complexity of the story. They understand the unknown around the story. And based on that, we use the Fibonacci series to estimate our story, the effort. So that's how you present that, as if you were speaking from a fact. Any other question? Malaki, I can see you. How are you? I'm glad to have you here today. Any good news? Any comment? It's been a long time.
No, not really. No comment. I'm just glad to be here. Timing is the issue.
That is true. It takes a commitment. It takes a commitment to come. But trust me, sometimes I wonder, sometimes I even have living, I'm like, because people are dragging themselves, they come late. I don't really know why, but I want you guys to tell me if this is relevant or if it's not relevant, because for me, this is the heart of the class. You can have all the notes, you can have all the knowledge, but if you don't know how to communicate that knowledge, it's hard to land a job. That's why I keep doing this, even though it's not like a requirement to come. I don't make it as required, but it should be a requirement for you, because what you will learn from the interview class is you usually apply that. It will help you. And trust me, those who are consistent, they are seeing some progress in whatever they are doing. So any other questions? Okay. So if you don't have any question, today I prepare some few scenario. I want us to go through some few interview scenario. I'm not going to start at the beginning, and if you don't have access to it, I can share that with all of you so that you have access to it. I don't know what you are seeing now. Let me make sure that you are seeing what I'm sharing. Okay, so this is the whole slide for interview. Interview course, and some of you have this, especially those who have business case, but I don't mind sharing with all of you because it's very important. So you can go through this and memorize it. All the interview is always, they always ask you, tell me about yourself, right? Tell me about yourself. I put more things here, but you don't have to say all this. The tell me about yourself is all about telling them, hey, my name is so-so, and I'm glad to be here. Currently, I'm working with this organization as a Scrum Master, as an Agile project manager, as an, I don't know, Agile delivery lead. And I'm currently working with 2 different teams, one Kanban team and one Scrum team, and we are developing this application to help the customer experience, maybe in agriculture or in e-commerce or in, I don't know. And then the reason why I'm out there looking is because my contract is coming to the end. That's why I've been following your organization, and I'm excited that I had the opportunity to be speaking with you today. So make sure that you learn more about the organization, because it's extremely important. You want to know their history, you want to know their culture, their value. So that's how you present yourself. That's the very first question. You cannot skip this question, and you have to master it as your last name. Like, you have to know it like your Bible. And the fact that you tell them right away that, hey, the reason that I'm here is because my contract is coming to end, because you want to avoid them to ask you the question, hey, why did you why is taking you, what is your motivation of being here today? So you want to avoid that question, and you tell them upfront so that they don't ask that question anymore. The second question that they can ask you is, why should we hire you? What made you stand out as a candidate? So you have to know your strength, and you have to master the job description, because it's only you. What if you have 10 candidates, they have the same, or 200 candidates, 500, sometimes, somewhere you will see 200 people have applied for that job. What makes you the right candidate? You have to be able to, list your strength. You can say, beside my 5 years experience working as a Scrum Master or working as a project manager, actually, my background perfectly fit with the job requirement. And I noticed by reading through your website that you can create this solution. And that has been part of my experience during my previous organization, where we leverage this type of technology. Let's say we leverage, I was working on the infrastructure with my team, working on setting up the infrastructure, and I realized that you guys are providing infrastructure, IT infrastructure for your client. So not just I have the expertise as a Scrum Master or as an Agile project manager, but I'm also very familiar with the technology that you guys are doing. And besides, and I can fit, or I can relate so well with your culture of inclusion, or your culture of excellence, or things like that. So try to read so that you can bring that to them. So what make you stand out? And you can also, if you cannot create yours, just read some of the things here, put everything here for you. Just read some, master it. And the problem is not to master it, it's to own it. The problem is to speak with confidence. The problem is to be able to face the camera and have that confidence. Even if the good thing is most of the interviews are still over the camera, over the remote, you don't have to go to the field. So that will help you a lot. Get that confidence, because confidence pays. They buy into your confidence. They don't even buy into your knowledge. If you show them that you are confident enough, trust me, you already win them like 60%. Your body language, your ability to look at them, to say things and own what you are saying. Say it as if you were born to do it. Now, in your opinion, what makes a successful Scrum Master? It can be, in your opinion, what makes a successful project manager? What makes a successful Agile delivery lead? So all that skill around are good skill. Communication is one of them. The ability of leveraging your emotional intelligence to handle people, handle difficult people, communicating in the right way, empower people, influence them to make decisions. You are a servant leader. How do you leverage that servant leadership without having any power to be able to impact others to do their work? How do you lead by example? You don't just want to tell people what to do, you want to inspire them to do it. And for you to do that, you want to be an example yourself. They want to look up you, they want to look up to you, they want to see that you are indeed an inspiration for them. You also have to be that facilitator. That means when you are listening to your team, they are facing some issue, you want to know what kind of question you want to ask. You have to be able to ask the right questions. Remember, your tool is not for you to be technical, but for you to know how to ask the right question. If it's something related to QC or QA, whatever company that you have, you want to, or release, you want to, hey, what are we facing? Is there any impact on this? How do you know, how can this impact us? Who do you know that can help us in solving this issue? Asking the right question and reach out to those people. You have to be proactive when it comes to resolving those problems. That's why we talk about actively removing impediment. It means that whenever they come to you for a problem, you have to be on top of that problem until the problem is resolved. You have to make sure that you communicate with different leaders so that they can be aware of what is happening. You want to be able to be encouraging. You have to encourage them. Some will come to you, they are having family problem. You have to have that compassion, that empathy. They buy into that. You have to be able to meet them in the one-on-one and build that relationship. Because when you meet them, there is that connection. When you meet them, try to open your video, try to connect with them. Even if they don't have their video open. When you have your video open, when you meet them in the one-on-one, is to show them, you will see that they will be embarrassed and they will do anything to open their video. They will grab a heart and put it and say, oh no, I'm not video ready, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes they will open up because you are showing them, you are not telling them. You are showing them by, like, I'm opening my video now to you, right? So it's to show you that, hey, I'm on video. So in the corporate world, if let's say your interlocutor, the person that you are meeting is on video and you are off video, what does that feel? You will be pushed to be on video too. Do you understand? So all that are skills that you develop without telling them that, hey, open your video, but you do it first. So you have to be that do it first leader. Actively listening. You have to be a great listener. Listen to understand. Don't listen to react. So when you listen, ask questions to clarify. Paraphrase what they are saying. So do you mean this? So what we are trying to say is this. Try to paraphrase them so that you make sure that you understand what they are saying. Take note, because some of those things are technical. You might not understand. Take note so that you can go back to be more organized. Those are the skills that you have to know. You have to be knowledgeable. If you are not knowledgeable, how will you stand and be able to solve problems in the split of second, where they call you out and say, hey, Miss Arlette, Mrs. Arlette, this is the situation. How do we go about this? If you don't have an answer, say, okay, I will reach out to you offline so that we can go through this. But you have to know how to say it. But sometimes it's not an offline something. You have to do something right there. So that is what makes you a successful Scrum Master, a project manager. Okay, or Agile coach. Now, those are behavioral interview, and trust me, most of interview are behavioral interview, and there's a way to answer those interviews, what we call STAR, right? The STAR technique. So the STAR technique means what? S means situation. What was the situation? You have to tell them the situation that happened, the context. Task mean, like, let's read it here. Situation, start off your answer to the interview question by explaining what the situation was and who was involved. Task, when you have detail of the situation, explain what the task was or what needed to be done. For instance, what was the impact of that situation? Then action, what have you done to facilitate or to resolve that problem? What action have you taken in order to resolve that situation that was in place so that you can eliminate the impact, which is the task? And what was the result? What was the outcome? So we will go through some of these situations here. Tell us about an issue you had with a stakeholder and what you did to resolve it. That's the situation. So right there, you have to be a great storyteller. Remember, when they are telling you this, I usually, and some of my students copy me, when you ask that, the time for me to think is the time for me to say, oh, thank you for that question. Oh, I like that question. For me to say, I like that question, is just the opportunity for me to have few seconds to create my story in my mind before I start telling. And I said, oh, wow, I like that question. Actually, it happened to me a couple of times, but let me share with you what happened this week. I had this situation where, and we didn't, the release note wasn't ready and the product have to go to production. The stakeholder that was in charge, that was supposed to be informed about the release, because the product was supposed to go to production. That means they have to be informed, be waiting for that. the person came up maybe at the last second and decided not to do the release, but actually everything was done and the stage was already scheduled. That is the situation. The stage was scheduled, everything was done, and they came out and they want us to release that feature with a specific requirement that wasn't there initially. So what have you done? So that is the situation. And the action here could be, the task here could be, because it's impossible to change the release because of the lockdown time was over, and we have to go through that that release window, and we cannot modify the release anymore because everything was done and ready for that release. That is the consequence, which is the task. The action could be like, okay, I have to alert the release management team to see what action needs to be taken. And they were open to bring us to an out of cycle meeting so that we can discuss on the alternative and be able to add that element that was missing on the release note. And also we were able to pull out from the release window so that the release was scheduled for out of cycle. And that's how we were able to successfully release to the client, even though we didn't release within the window, but we were able to release 2 days after the production release window. That's the result. You see, this you cannot lie, but the good thing, I prepare some of those things here for you to master it. These I just came up with this because it really happened to us. This is experience speaking, right? Because you don't have that experience, master this thing here like this. In my previous role, I was responsible for facilitating the completion of a time-sensitive project. The project was progressing extremely well. However, as time went on, one particular stakeholder was starting to delay on the delivery of their part of the project specification. So that was the situation. The task. It was my job as a project facilitator to speak to the stakeholder in order to find out why there was a delay, and more importantly, what could be done or what we could do to speed up things up, to speed the thing up, ensuring that the project is completed successfully. So I have to take the responsibility to reach out to that stakeholder. That was the task. So what did you do? I organized a meeting with the stakeholder or the client who was in charge to provide us what was needed to deliver the product on time. Turned out that they were undercoded on this specific project and was operating at loss. I used effective negotiation and persuasion technique to explain how any failure with the project could have a negative impact on their company, and that it was imperative that they deliver to us as promised, because we have a contract. They found out later on that they were operating at loss and that they were not very enthusiastic of providing whatever they were committed themselves for. But I leveraged my emotional intelligence to show them, hey, this is the impact. If this doesn't happen, it will make us look back, it will make us as a company, it will make your company look back, and we will not trust you anymore. How can we find a way to provide whatever we promise that we have to provide to our client? And then the CEO eventually came around to my way of thinking, and he promised to deliver their side of project on time. From that day on, I kept a regular contact with the CEO to make sure he kept to his word, which he did. The project was finally completed on time and to the required specification. This is like generic answer. But here, the goal here is to help you understand how you use the STAR technique, and you go and make up your situation. You could say there are many ways to come up with the problem. As we go through that, you will see multiple scenarios. Pick what is more convenient for you, because this could be like too high for you. This is like for project manager. But please pick something that is related to you. Try to create your story also just that way, so that you have it. You have it on your board. Any questions so far? No questions? That worries me. Okay. Now it's to tell me how. Tell me how you do this. Tell me how you do that. Tell me how you facilitate a daily Scrum meeting. How will you deal with a discord or conflict in the team? You see, so those are tell me how. This is easy, right? How do you do it? Maybe you can say, you know, during my daily stand up, I always make sure that I log into my Rally or my Jira board, you know, 15 minutes before, making sure that I go through the board to see what kind of discrepancy on the board, make sure that I go through my email to see if there's any announcement that need to be discussed during the meeting before the meeting starts. So when the meeting starts, usually I can go through, I pull out my board, my Kanban board, and then I read name based on the story that is on the board, and they provide their update because they already know the quick question that they have to answer. So I don't need to repeat myself. So whenever I call their name, they know that they have to tell me what they have done yesterday. They have to tell me what they are planning to do today, and if they are having any issue. So that's how I lead my stand-up. And sometimes I also change the methodology. That means I can decide to call name based on the people that join the team. You know, just call the name from my team, or call the name from the Rally, or let them call the next person. So you just make it fun, depending. But you can just stick on one. You pull your Rally board and you just go through the story and call the name, and there you go and provide their update. And then usually you can say usually your stand-up is 15 minutes, but you also have 15-minute buffer just for after discussion. So when you have any discussion that is taking longer, you want to take that 15 minutes, the remaining 15 minutes to discuss about that. But actually the update is within the first 15 minutes. You can also read here. I'm not reading it, I'm just providing you what I do, right? Now, how will you deal with a discord or conflict in the team? You can list all those steps, okay? These steps that are here. But the first thing when there's a conflict, one is to listen. You want to make sure that you listen well. You listen all the parties, you know, to make sure that all of them, you know, what is happening, what is the root of the conflict. And then from there now, you want to, you know, maybe when you listen, maybe you want to schedule a meeting to listen. And when you schedule a meeting to listen, now maybe you want now to bring a solution, or you want to bring that problem to the retrospective. It depends on how the problem is, because sometimes a team member can reach out to substitute and say that, you know what, I'm not happy with this other team member. I've been texting him, this is our communication, and he's not very responsive. When I've been texting him, I've been watching for days and he's not responding to me. And I was needing his answer in order for me to move on with my task, and I didn't like that. So they are complaining to you. You are the Scrum Master. You apologize on behalf of the person, and you said, please, next time, can you keep me in the loop? Always, you know, keep me in the loop so that I can follow up on those situations, so that we make sure that it doesn't just become a burden for you. But I will make sure that I meet with Mr. John to clarify that situation, so that we can work in a better, you know, so that we have a better ground of working. Then when you meet Mr. John, it was reported to me that you have not been very responsive this day regarding this problem. Is there anything that you want me to help with? What is happening? Is there something that you are facing that you want to address with me? Listen to them, and they will tell you, and they don't say, please, you know, if you have things like that, please make sure that you let me know, so that I can be, if I can be of any help, I will make sure that I do it. But please, next time, make sure that you communicate. You don't leave your chat or your email without reading. And when you know that somebody like that behaves this way, always reach out to them. For instance, when you see an email that open them to resolve an issue, always reach out to them. Hey, Mr. John, I saw that Mr. Charles is waiting on your answer to do this. Always reach out to them. Be proactive. but also bring that issue to the retrospective, not to name people, just to discuss with the team as and put it on the working agreement. When you work with your teammate, this is how you do it. So they will come up with the solution themselves and you put it in your working agreement. That is how you build your working agreement with your team. So you see, simplify it like this, and then that will be easy. Now, what are your strengths and weaknesses? They usually ask that. What are your strengths? So there also, that your strength could be, you have the art of empowering people, or you're a great listener, can be a strength, or you are a perfectionist, can be a weakness. Don't say that you're really like that. Oh, I always come late at work, or I always finish my work late. Never say something that discredit yourself. Or you can say, for instance, that as my strength, I know that I'm a great listener, and then I listen with empathy, and I'm an action taker. So whenever I have, my team have problem, they know that they can count on me to resolve the problem. If I don't resolve the problem, I will not rest. I will make sure that I get the solution for them, so they can count on me. So I make sure that my team earn my trust on that. But for my weakness, I am some kind of perfectionist person. That means I always, do multiple edits. If I'm doing something, I will go extra ball and spend more time doing multiple edits. For instance, when I'm designing my SharePoint for my team, I will change template, I will go through that multiple times. So for me to correct that weaknesses, I have to set myself a limitation. I have to say something to myself, for instance, that after three edits, I don't want to edit the SharePoint again. I want to make sure that I keep it the way it is. And that's how I put myself on that check. Otherwise, I will be improving all the time. So that is my limitation, my weakness. Something like that. Or you can say, your weakness could be something like, I'm somebody who like to learn. I'm always curious to learn. But the problem is sometimes I overwhelm myself because I want to learn a lot, that sometimes I feel overwhelmed because I'm always having multiple things that I'm trying to go through. So find something that will give you credit, but that you are doing it not so well. Okay. What skill and attribute do you possess that will help you in the role of the Scrum Master, in the role of the project manager? So you want to say that beside the regular skill that a Scrum Master, project manager have, for instance, facilitator, servant leader, all those, problem solving skill, communication skill. Beside those skills, I am a technical person. I know how to design processes. So I know how to map out processes for my team. And it's something that has been very helpful for my team, because whenever I understand something, I'm always the person to go and create a template or map out on, create a visual representation of whatever they are saying. That have been very helpful for my team. So that is one skill that helped me really save my team a lot of time. For instance, when I join a team, the first thing I want to see what is making them waste time. And if, for instance, for documentation purpose, they always save their thing all over the place. Make sure that I organize their documentation. Make sure that I put down a SharePoint page for them to access, a very single access point for all their documentation. That will save them a ton of time. So I'm a perfectionist. I try to look for a way to eliminate waste by finding the solution and improving the process. That made me not just a leader, a servant leader that I am, but also it helped me track or help me improve the process in my team. So that's how you answer that. Any questions so far? This is a very quiet crowd. This should be a discussion. Have you guys faced any situation that you want to discuss here? Or you want me just to keep going? Any situation during your interview? If you don't, let me keep going. Describe a time when you experience conflict as part of a task or project, and how do you deal with that? So, for instance, I'm going to share this with you. And we have that big project happening, a very big project, term of multi-million-dollar project. But the problem is the scope of that project keep changing. After the first PI, the scope changed. So that means the commitment that the developer work to commit themselves for a specific objective, for a PR objective, but that objective changed along the way because of the request from the client. And when it changed, that means it created that it kind of make us off track because we have to be working on certain things, but actually we committed on things that were different. So because of that, the team are not very confident. The confidence level of the team is low, and we have to find a solution, a comfortable way to handle the situation. So we have to work with the product management team to agree on what needs to be released and to also review our objective, PR objective that were initially committed, that we initially committed for. And also I make sure that I create a roadmap to track all the changes and to also track the new feature that we are working on, and making sure that I stay in touch with the developer in the constant way so that I can track their feeling, their confidence, and try to address whatever they are facing, to address their fear in the proactive way. And that's how we were able to come back on track and not just deliver, even though it wasn't the committed objective, but we deliver what was that we committed initially, after the scope was changed. But that was the only way for us to master and be able to stay on track on the work that we had. This is an example, or you can read the example right here. Tell me what you understand about the project life cycle. So this is all about now technical. Remember, they do behavioral interview, they do technical interview. This is what they call technical interview. That means an interview that require you to provide something that is related to your skill, right? Product life cycle. What do you understand by that? You know that you also have those process goals, right? Initiation and planning, design and development, implementation and testing, deployment. It could be planning, initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, and close. If we are talking about project management, here we are like talking a little bit about project management in the sense of software development. Initiation, planning, design, development, implementation, testing, deployment. So they want you to talk about that. How do you leverage each of those? And we have a very extensive class on this as well. So just refer to that. Have you ever been part of a project where the client was dissatisfied? So you have a story here that you can tell. In the very early day of working on project, before I became a Scrum Master, I was part of a team that almost failed to deliver on the specific project. The team was tasked with completing a new website for a client who had a set budget and time frame for completion. While the initial planning stage of the project went well, the project coordinator at the time kept agreeing to change requested by the client partway through the project. I think this was far away to the project. Each time the client requested a change or addition to the website, it simply ate out the budget. So what happening here is, I have to rewrite this. What happening here is Agile require you to change. But even though you change, it doesn't mean that it's going to go and take the budget. So the way Agile works, you can change even at the last minute. But you change, but you focus on the one that gives the highest value. The waterfall way, when you change in the waterfall, it can impact the budget because they are expecting you to deliver everything you agree to deliver on the contract. So every change have to go through a process, otherwise it won't be changed. So for instance, you can say something like, before we start implementing Agile in our organization, we were facing, our project was running over the budget or over the timeline because of the way the scope of the project was changing, and we were not able to accommodate because we were using waterfall methodology at the time. And that is the reason why we decided to transition into Agile, where we're not just focusing on delivering incrementally, but we want to deliver the highest possible value. We want to deliver a minimum viable product. That means we want to make sure that whatever we spend our time delivering bring the most value to the client, even if we don't deliver the whole scope. And that will help us to adapt to change. Because Agile, one of the Agile strengths is to be able to deliver the least feature, but the highest feature, but not to try that you grab everything and you want to work on it, that waterfall. So that's an example. How will you approach a project that had a limited budget and limited member of staff at your disposal? So this is like project management questions. When the project has limited member and limited number of staff. First of all, I will transition into Agile by saying that, Agile way of working help you to solve that kind of problem. Because when a project have a limited budget, you want to make sure that you first work on the MVP, the minimum viable product. What is the must-have feature that need to be delivered to the client? And what is the best timeline to be able to deliver that must-have feature? And then when we agree on the must-have feature, we do the sizing. That means we make sure that, okay, this must-have feature can take 3 sprints, 5 sprints, and we already know often what will be the budget for that. And from the very first sprint, we can already evaluate if we are making project progress or not. And if there is something that are not clear, we can easily get the feedback from the client and know how to pivot very early in the project. So you want to make sure that you agree on the MVP, and then you have your limited staff, but your staff have to be able to deliver whatever is required for them to deliver. So even if the staff is limited, they have to be cross-functional. They have to be able to deliver incrementally without seeking somebody from outside the team. So those are the 2 criteria that you always make sure that you have in your team before you start a project. Otherwise, that project will fail. Or you can read an example here. We have example there. You are in a meeting presenting your plan of action to important client and stakeholder. One of the meeting members said she doesn't understand a part of your presentation because it is too technical. What will you do? Those are basic questions, but what we want to say here is we want to make sure that whenever you want to do your presentation, ask yourself, can a 5-year-old understand what I'm saying? That way you avoid yourself to be very technical. Can a 5-year-old or can my grandma understand what I'm trying to say? So you always have to keep in mind, can they be able to understand what I'm trying to say? That will help you to break down whatever you are saying so that people can understand that at your level. You can also use the example in the PowerPoint. What time is it? Because this is long and we have a set time. Okay. Any questions so far? So how do you feel about answering those questions, those interview questions?
I have a question. So if the interviewer were to ask you what was your weakness and strength, how would you answer it?
Can you repeat again? I didn't get that.
If an interviewer were to ask you what was your weakness and strength, how would you answer that?
I think we addressed that. I told you, for instance, I said when it comes to weaknesses, say something that will not discredit you. For me, I always say, like, I like to be perfectionist, or I overwork myself. Okay, I like to be perfectionist. I always try to do so many edits. For instance, if I'm designing a PowerPoint, I will do so many edits and I will take longer doing that very document. So the way for me to keep myself on check and be able to stay within the time frame, I can make sure that I have the most edit that I can do is 3 edits and I stop. That's how I work on myself to improve that. That could be one thing that you show that as a weakness. As a strength, you will say, beside your skill, beside your background, maybe you have some technical ability to speak any language with any different, any type of stakeholder. So when you want to speak with your developer, you understand their language. You want to speak with the management, you understand the language. Or you can just say that you have that emotional intelligence that help you know how to solve problems, how to deal with difficult people, how to empower them, how to not just listen to them, but build that trust in them so that they can know that they can count on you. So you make sure that you are a trusted person. You know how to gain trust from your team. That is a strength. Because if your team doesn't trust you, they cannot even follow you. I remember I had a job in that organization before I came. 6 people within that year have left that very position. 6. So when they were even interviewing me, they were emphasizing on how do you deal with the difficult team member? How do you, because it's a very niche area where you don't find that many skills. It's in GIS. I have a background in GIS, Geography Information System. And that very project was, that team is a GIS team. So one, to get a GIS person who is an agile person, who have project management, who have all that background, it's difficult to find. So the 3 people who were on that position, and you have to deal with difficult teams. They have 2 or 3 team members there. They've been working together for the last 10 years, and they are very difficult to handle. And you have to come and you have to learn a bunch of software because they have developed multiple applications that require you to understand in order for you to master that project and be able to lead your team. So when people come, they get frustrated, they leave. They come, they get frustrated, they leave. So they told me upfront, and they said, we are looking for somebody who can handle this thing. We know that this thing is not easy. How are you going to help us to do that? So I always tell them, hey, I have experience working with difficult clients. I have experience working with difficult team members. But the first thing that I have as a strength is to gain their trust. Gaining their trust means I have to be knowledgeable. That means I have to do my part. I have to be that doing first leader. I don't just have to tell them. They have to learn from what I'm doing. So I have to make sure that I position myself in the way that I will inspire them. But to do that, I will first meet them. I want to know who are they, what are their fear, what are they expecting, what are the expectation toward me. And that lady, first it was my manager who came, and he told me, if the TPM is like technical program manager, which the technical program manager is actually the manager of that team, but I was coming from the agile department, so my manager was a different person. And the guy told me that if my TPM love you, you have the job. And that lady, and he told me, make sure that you show her how you're gonna help her resolve this issue, because this is a big issue that we are facing in our organization. When I met with the lady, she was just like, that's what I need. And that's exactly what happened when I joined the organization. The first thing, I meet with those guys and I ask them, what are your greatest fear? What are your expectations toward me? And they always tell me, what was the gap that you were facing that you were expecting me to deliver? They were saying, the previous delivery manager were not even capable to write a story, but they are telling us to do this, they are telling us to do that, but themselves, they never even log into our application to know how it functions. They gave me a list of complaints and I pay attention. And after that, I have to put myself to work to be able to bring that level of trust with them, for them to embrace me. So it takes that trust, but for you, you have to be able to gain that trust. They need to know that you are competent. And first thing is what? It's not just your knowledge, even your signature. Do you know why I asked you to pass all the lessons that I asked you to pass? Your signature speak for you, especially if you are foreigner like us. We don't speak the, we speak with accent. They feel like you are dumb because from your accent, they think that you are not intelligent. They think that you are just getting by. But your signature, your email signature, speak for you. So when you sign, they see the list of certification that you have. They see your background. They start respecting you, even if they don't know you. I myself, I behave the same way. When I receive an email, the first thing I want to see the signature. Who is this person? What qualification does he have? I want to see something like PMP. I want to see something like Scrum Master, Advanced Scrum Master, Safe Scrum Master. It depends on their area. I want to see something like this. I want to see that, no, this guy is knowledgeable. That's what you want to make sure that you have the knowledge, you have the certification to back your knowledge up, and you have the confidence to be able to communicate that knowledge to them. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Any other question? No more questions for today? Any comment? So what are the challenges that you guys are facing now? Brendan, are you there? Alex?
Oui, Mama Georgette, yes.
What are your main challenges?
What I will not say challenge because I'm not I didn't have any interview yet, but I'm trying just to master my interview, to prepare my interview, and also master like Jira or DevOps. Yes, that's what I'm working on.
Yeah. Jira is good, but you have to understand what you are doing there, right?
Yes.
And you have all the video to do that, so that shouldn't be a problem. You have to understand your course. I always, you have to understand, and if you understand it, that's why I always, every module they have a video. The reason for the video is because I want you to apply it. It's the application of the knowledge that we lead you to confidence. So if you watch the video, try to get something from the video, make it yours, and that is going to lead you to that confidence. But that is really important. Applying your knowledge is really important. Anything else? Okay, so if there's nothing else, then we can stop for today. Okay, so bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye, Mama Georgette. Thank you.
You're very welcome.